Would you like to make a podcast? Spotify has a way to let you make one easily, distribute it everywhere, and even earn money, all in one place, for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify, and everywhere else podcasts are heard. And video podcasts are also available on Spotify. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. You know, ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I've enjoyed sharing my favorite stories with children around the world. If you've ever thought of starting your own podcast, download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started. The Elves and the Shoemaker. There once was a shoemaker who lived with his wife. Although they worked from dawn until dusk, they were still very poor. "We only have enough leather to make one more pair of shoes to sell," the shoemaker told his wife one day. "What will become of us?" asked the shoemaker's wife. "How can we live without money?" The shoemaker shook his head sadly. He cut out the leather and left it on his workbench ready to start work the next morning. Then the couple went to bed with heavy hearts. In the middle of the night, when the house was quiet and the pale moonlight shone into the workshop, two elves appeared. They were dressed in rags and had eyes as bright as buttons. They explored the workshop, balancing on thread reels and peering into cupboards. Soon, they found the leather. Now elves are busy little creatures, so they set to work at once, snipping and sewing, and as they worked, they sang. "Busy little elves are we, working by the pale moonlight. While the humans are asleep, we are busy through the night." By dawn, the two little elves had finished their work and disappeared. When the shoemaker came to start work the next morning, he could not believe his eyes. There on his workbench was the finest pair of shoes he had ever seen. "The stitches are so delicate," he said as he showed his astonished wife the beautiful shoes. "I will place them in my window for everyone to see." Soon a rich gentleman walked by the store. He saw the stylish shoes and came inside. The rich gentleman tried on the shoes and they fit perfectly. He was so delighted that he gave the shoemaker twice the asking price. "I can buy more leather," said the shoemaker happily to his wife. That evening, the shoemaker cut out leather for two more pairs of shoes. He left it on his workbench for the next morning. In the middle of the night, the two elves appeared again. They explored the workshop, climbing on tools and swinging from shoelaces. Soon, they found the leather. The elves went to work at once, snipping and sewing. As they worked, they sang. "Busy little elves are we, working by the pale moonlight. While the humans are asleep, we are busy through the night." By dawn, the two little elves had finished their work and disappeared. Once again, the shoemaker came into his workshop and found the shoes neatly finished on his bench. The shoemaker placed them in his window. By now, the rich gentleman had told his friends about the shoemaker's fine work. The two pairs of shoes sold the same day for more money than the shoemaker could have ever dreamed of. The shoemaker now had enough money to buy leather to make 4 new pairs of shoes. "But who could be helping us?" asked the shoemaker's wife. That evening, the shoemaker cut out leather to make 4 more pairs of shoes. He left it on his workbench as usual. Then the shoemaker and his wife hid and waited. In the middle of the night, they watched in amazement as 2 little elves appeared. As usual, the elves explored the workshop. They danced with colorful ribbons and juggled pretty beads. Soon they found the leather. Again the elves set to work, snipping and sewing. As they worked, they sang. Busy little elves are we, working through the pale moonlight. While the humans are asleep, we are busy through the night. By dawn, the two little elves had finished their work and disappeared. We must repay our little helpers for their kindness, said the shoemaker to his wife. The couple thought hard about what they could do to thank the elves. They were dressed in rags, said the shoemaker's wife. Why don't we make them a new set of fine clothes? Although they were very busy now with their store, the shoemaker and his wife spent every spare moment they had making their gift for the elves. They cut out fine cloth and leather and sewed tiny seams. Soon they had made 2 little pairs of pants, 2 smart coats, 2 sturdy pairs of boots, and 2 warm woolly scarves. They placed the little outfits on the workbench for the elves to find. That night, when the house was quiet and the pale moonlight shone into the workshop, the shoemaker and his wife hid and waited. They watched happily as the 2 little elves appeared, and as usual the elves explored the workshop. They made a tightrope from a thread and bounced on a pincushion. Soon they found the tiny little outfits. They were delighted. They put on the pants, the coats, the boots, and the scarves, and danced merrily around the workbench. As they danced, they sang, Handsome little elves are we, dancing by the pale moonlight. While the humans are asleep, we make merry through the night. And then the smart little elves put on their hats and disappeared. The shoemaker and his wife never saw the little elves again, but the couple continued to make fine shoes for their store, and from that day on, they always prospered. Thank you for listening to Bedtime Stories. Please make sure you subscribe to follow us for more stories and, of course, share them with a friend. You can get notified of new stories on Twitter and Instagram @MagicMonorail. If you have a suggestion for a new story, send us an email, magicmonorail@gmail.com. Until next time, good night.